Welcome to my YouTube TV show where I interview inspirational women. So today we have my friend Brittini Burton at Holy Shit Brit on Insta. And
Yes.
I met Brittini at my yoga teacher training in Peru last year, so April, May 2019. And then we traveled together afterwards. And Brittini has backpacked all around the world. So we're just going to talk about that and hear a little bit about her life and her journey. So share about you, Brittini. Tell us a little bit about
Okay. Well, I first want to say thank you for being the first interviewee.
Yes.
And I guess like you said, I've traveled and I traveled the world. I just got done, I just did a year backpacking where I was in Central and South America, New Zealand, and now I'm in the UK. So I guess like really like how this all began. Basically, let me try to think, 'cause this is like there's a lot to talk about. This is my whole
Yeah,
life.
what made you, or like what was your first trip, or was there something that made you realize that you like want to do this, or like
Yes, I definitely, and this is something I was going to write in my blog, like that one moment in your life where like you just saw your whole life change. I was 19 and I was going to Michigan State University. I was a sophomore in college then, and I got a job to work in Yellowstone National Park. So I worked in the summer in Yellowstone as like a busser, like a busboy, bussing tables at a restaurant. But it like literally changed like my life in the sense that this was my new sense of purpose, was traveling and being with like-minded travelers, because it was the first time I saw mountains in my life. I was 19. I didn't leave
what?
Michigan. Yeah, I didn't leave, which is crazy because you know me. It was the first time I left the west, more west than Lake Michigan in my life. I was 19, so not that long ago. I'm
Wow.
25. The only time before that, I would only go to Florida because my grandparents lived there. Like, so my family never traveled, like, even outside of the town I grew up in. So I went to Yellowstone. I road tripped there with my grandparents. That's besides the point. But I drove my car to Montana from Michigan. And, through that, I slowly started seeing the different landscapes. And I was like, oh, my God, there is a whole nother world out there. Like, I knew, but I didn't know. So, and then living in Yellowstone, I was living with the people I worked with in like a dormitory style living. So I had a roommate, and then there was like a communal bathroom, and it basically, I didn't know, but it was basically like a hostel, which I didn't know what a hostel was, but it was just with people that like, I was one of the youngest, but like we were just all like-minded, just like these like nomadic, like don't really know what our plan is, unlike society thinking we should at 19 to know what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. I didn't, like, and I found these other people who were like my age or older that didn't know what they wanted to do the rest of their lives either, and we just all found each other there. So Yellowstone was where I like found this like family of like-mindedness. And so with that, I went every summer, and during university, I would go work somewhere else in a national park. So I worked in Yellowstone, and I also worked in Alaska in Denali National Park.
Cool.
And with school, I also did a study abroad in Australia. So that was like university. So it felt very like I did school for, 8 months and then traveled for the 3 months or 4 months that were summer. And that's how I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after school, I found yachting because my mom watches the hit Bravo TV show Below Deck.
Wait,
So
is that how you found out
Yes.
about this?
Kathy Laurie got me going because she watches Bravo.
No way.
Yeah. Well, because I was like still serving. So after I graduated in December, I did an extra semester. So I graduated in December. I went to Lake Tahoe in California and worked a ski season out there. And then in the summer, I worked in Alaska again for another season, and I had to go home early because I got really ill. So after I got recovered, after it was like 2 months of illness. So after I was like recovered, I was like, I don't want to go back to serving. I love traveling, and I love how my job was like I was making money and living in an exotic place. And my mom's like, well, you can work on a yacht. I watched Below Deck, and I was like, oh, Below Deck, like, come on. So my mom sent me to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which is where it's like the mega capital of yachting. And she paid because I wasn't going to do it. It was like a $1,500 5-day course to become certified to work on a yacht. So my mom, bless her heart, like has no money, but she like flew me to Florida and paid for my course. And she was like, if you don't like it, just look at it as like a week-long vacation in Fort Lauderdale. And it was a round trip ticket. And at the time I had a boyfriend, and he was in Michigan.
So wait, this is after, how old were you? This is after you graduated?
I was 22.
Okay.
And so I go to Fort Lauderdale, I do this 5-day course, and I was like, I was living in a crew house, which is a hostel basically, but for people looking for yacht jobs. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I just got my certifications, but I'm going to go back to Michigan and then come back in the summer, because that's what I thought would make sense, is October at this point. And they're like, no, this is the time to come and find a job, because all the boats are coming from summer season from like the Med or the Bahamas, wherever they came from, and are coming back to Florida to do their maintenance work. So they're going to stay in Florida for like 3 months. And this is when new people get new jobs. And they're like, you need to break up your boyfriend and you need to come and stay here. And I was like, all right. So I took my flight back to Michigan, broke up with my boyfriend, and then flew back to Florida and got into yachting. So that was like, honestly, the craziest. Yachting was like a year and a half. Like, yachting was like the last job I had. Like, I just got out of yachting like right before I met you. So that was like a year and a half of my life of just like constant, like, I mean, you're working on a luxury yacht and you're making like decent money because you're not paying for anything. Like, your food's being paid for, you're traveling, like shampoo and conditioner was all paid for by the boat, like everything. So you're saving money, you're traveling. It's really hard work, but at the age I was at, it was really fun for me, like living on a yacht and the whole experience. So I went to like the Panama Canal on the yacht, the East Coast of America, like Maine, New York, Boston, and then like the Caribbean. So that was really fun. And like this whole time while yachting, like I like would travel on the weekends, like I go camping, and like, I mean, I've traveled a lot before this. I just left out, forgot to mention, but I've been traveling for a long time. Like, it wasn't just working. Like, I've been to Australia and Thailand and Bali as well. So like traveling has now become like my passion. And that's why I did yachting, because it wasn't because I wanted to work on a yacht, it's because I wanted to travel.
Yeah, so it enabled you to do other things.
Exactly. So I decided while I was working on this yacht that I wanted to get my yoga certification. So I found a friend posted on Instagram that she was going to Peru to do it. So I was like, you know what? I've never been to Peru. Let's do it. So that's how this whole year travel started, was me joining the Peru yoga training.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was like, okay, the yoga training's in April. I'm going to quit my yacht in March. And then I'll just travel after that. Like, I'll save up money and travel.
Ooh.
But things happened on the yacht where I quit earlier. I quit in February, or I quit in January. So I had 2 months before the Peru yoga training happened. So I was like, literally, I'm not even kidding you, I quit the yacht, was home for 2 weeks, and then I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go to Nicaragua to just like start something off, literally. So just to paraphrase, I knew when I was leaving the United States I was going to travel for a year, and the only thing for this year travel I had planned was my flight to Nicaragua, my first night hostel stay. I was going to be in Peru in April for yoga training, and I knew I was going to be in New Zealand for another course I was doing in September. So I only had like that. I didn't know what I was doing or what I was doing. So, and this whole time I'm traveling female solo. So that's me. That is Brittini, like in a nutshell. No
Oh my
planning by
God,
myself.
Brittini, this is crazy.
I know. I feel like, so that's just like and then anyone can just look at my Instagram, see where I was at. But I feel like the part that's like motivating, because like, yeah, I've done that. But I think what a lot of women, because I'm a part of a travel group called Girls Love Travel on Facebook. And so I see a lot of people who are on there who are mostly people who inspire to travel, or that, you know, go on a vacation here and there and show their pictures. And what people have a really hard time to like step into is solo traveling, which is the only way I really have traveled ever. And I mean, that does have to do a lot with my like comfort of social environment. Like it's really easy for me to meet people and me not know anyone and just walk in there and figure the social scene out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've met a lot of people who are traveling solo who might not have that skill, or like don't really care enough to have that skill, and they're still doing it. And it's just all about like just the drive. Like if you want to travel and you have no one to travel with, because obviously my whole life is traveling. I'm not going to find someone to travel for a year with, or even like a month. Who has a month off work, especially in the States? It's just like unheard of. Right. So you just got to like do it. Like it sounds so stupid because it's like Nike, just do it, but it's literally
it is. It's just making that first decision, and that's like the hardest decision, I feel like.
Yeah, it's like booking that ticket, because once you book that ticket, everything falls into place.
Yeah.
Like I guess I took this part out, but when I was in university, after I discovered, whoa, I really like to travel, and I know I want to do a world backpack trip by myself at one point. I'm like 20 at this point. Instead of my senior year spring break going to like Panama City Beach, Florida, and get drunk for a week and just sit on the beach all week, I decided to book a flight to Hawaii for 2 weeks by myself. So this was technically my first backpacking trip by myself, was when I was like 20 and went to Hawaii for spring break for 2 weeks. I had no plans. Again,
you went by yourself?
Went by myself, no plans. I knew I wanted to go to Maui and Kauai, so I made those flights, because they're flights. So I made those flights knowing I was going to be in Maui for like 5 days, Kauai, you know, like, and that was it. And my God, I met like the most incredible people, and I still talk to like some of them, and that's like 5 years later. So I did like a little, because it was still the United States. So to me, that felt like a step. Like yeah. It's not international travel, but like it's my first time I'm doing it by myself. And like if you've been Hawaii, or anyone that has, it doesn't feel like you're in the US. So it felt very like, you know, I felt like I was doing it. So that was my first like actual attempt to do it.
Okay.
So that was really cool. Definitely like baby steps. Maybe not go a whole year and it's your first time, but.
So because something that always holds me back from doing things I want to do is like other people's opinions. So like, what did your like parents say, or what did your friends say? They were like, why aren't you coming to Panama City Beach with us? Why are you going to Hawaii by yourself? Like,
yeah.
And like, how did you save up that, like, how did you save that money to go? Like, did you like from working the previous summer, or?
Yeah. So those are really good questions. The easy answer for money is, yeah, so working in the national parks, I was surprisingly making really good money, because like people are coming to national parks. Like it's not like I'm working at TGIFs and maybe it's going to be busy on a Friday. Like it's a national park in the summer. So there's constant traffic.
And you're making tips because you're working the restaurants?
Yeah, so I was making tips, and then like as I got older, I became a server. So I was like making like in Alaska, I'd make like $200 a night. So that's enough to, like for 3 months, you know? So that's enough to like save up for a good trip. And then yachting was the same. So that's how I got the year travel. And then perceptions of people. My parents, they just kind of, I grew up, they always knew I was a person. So it's basically just my mom. So my mom just knew I was a person that like was going to do what I wanted. Like I turned 18 and I told her, I was like, Mom, like, you can't tell me what to do anymore. You can just give me suggestions. And that was like, that is just how I have always been. And she always knew I was like that. So it wasn't like, no, I don't want you to go. She would just be like I went to Colombia and like Ecuador and like I went to places that like maybe parents aren't that comfortable with. And my mom would just be like, you know, I don't want you to go, but I know you want to go. Like she would let me know she's not comfortable, but she can't do anything about it. And so that's how that happened. And then just because my life like slowly, even before Yellowstone at 19, like people always knew me as someone that liked doing adventure. I don't know why. I don't remember. I think it's just my personality. Like I was told about Yellowstone because someone told me like, oh, you'll probably like this. I think because I was really outdoorsy, and a lot of people like take outdoorsy and like traveling as one, which is that makes sense. So people just always saw me as someone that would travel, and then it just like I just took it. Like I took it full heartedly. So
Cool. So tell us about like your year of travel. So you had money saved up from yachting. You were like booked your flight to Nicaragua. You had a couple of things planned, but like what was your intention?
So I had like a rough plan, which I will be honest, I didn't look at a map. Like I had the roughest plan, let me tell you. Like I went to Nicaragua and then I bought a ticket to a music festival in Vision, which is in Costa Rica.
Ooh, I've always wanted to go to that.
Yeah. So I got a ticket for that. So I had these like random things that I was like, okay, I have to be in Costa Rica by this date. I have to be in Peru by this date. So like it gave me like a momentum in my travels.
Right.
I couldn't just like stay in Nicaragua for 3 months and like, oops, so I had 2 weeks in Nicaragua because I had to be in Costa Rica for Envision. And then after Costa Rica, I took a flight, which was like $500 US, which was just stupid. I should have just planned it better. But I took a flight to Belize. You live and you learn. I took a flight up to Belize, and then from Belize, I went to Guatemala. So that was Central America: Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Belize, Guatemala. And in general, Central America was just like very party, beachy, like vibe. Like that's what it was. It was really fun, and wild. And then I get to Ecuador. So I fly from Guatemala to Ecuador, and it was like completely different. South America and Central America are very different. South America is like a lot more serious in the sense like people aren't there to like really party. It's more to like actually culturally get in there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot more like outdoors things to do. Like there's not much like mountain hiking in Central America. Like elevation's not high, but in like South America, there's a crap ton of world-renowned hikes. So there's a lot of like mountaineers and more serious people. So it took me like Ecuador I was there for 3 weeks. It took me almost all 3 weeks to like get used to that because I was like, wow, party.
Like, let's party.
And everyone's like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Now I like don't speak any Spanish. Oh, that's the other thing. I was for 6 months, I was in a Spanish speaking like region and I didn't know any Spanish.
And how did that go for you?
That's the thing is like, I came in with the like self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
That I was like, there's no way I'm going to learn Spanish. Like I tried to learn Spanish in high school, basically didn't get it. So I was like, there's no way. And because of that, I really didn't try. So I was like, oh, I won't get it anyways. So it was my fault. I really didn't try. And I also was like, solo female traveler. So if there was someone speaking English, I would naturally feel safe and like just be there with them. I didn't try to really integrate. I didn't try to like learn Spanish that much. I just learned enough to get me by when I needed to. Like there's definitely times where it was freaking scary, like not knowing where I was, you know, I don't have reception, I didn't have data, like being completely lost, and just like literally basically for 6 months I was just relying on strangers to get me by, and hopefully they didn't like tell me the wrong thing. So that was wild. And then Peru.
Do you wish like you knew more Spanish, or do you wish you were more like receptive to it, or like because you were like,
Yeah,
I had
definitely.
this self-fulfilling thing that you weren't gonna learn it.
I definitely like look back, because I was there for 6 months, and by like, you know, the month 5, I definitely felt drained because I just couldn't, like, like when you're alone, like you're very alone when everyone's speaking Spanish around, or a different language than you. Like you can't, like, it's not like you can just hear people have like laugh or like say hello to each other. Like it's like aliens talking basically, and it's just like, so you're just like completely isolated. So that very like, not overwhelming, but just like tiring. I was just like, oh. So I definitely know, like, if I want to go back, I want to know more Spanish than I did or do now. Like I only knew how to order food, you know, like I didn't know conversation basically.
Yeah.
So
Anyways, all right. And then you were going to talk about Peru, I think.
yeah, so I did Peru. I went Peru. Like I didn't have any plans. So I was in Peru for 3 months. I did the yoga training for 3 weeks, which was just like spiritually awakening. So I was like, I don't want to travel anymore.
Okay, I need to say like a side note about you during training.
Oh no.
Okay, so like just context for everyone. Like, so I've been like in my 20s, like I read a lot of like spiritual books and stuff like that. So like I was kind of familiar with like the concepts, like, and then in our yoga teacher training, it wasn't like a core power teacher training where it's just like yoga. It was like very spiritual. It was very intense. It was really going deep, like getting rid of these layers. We learned some weird shit. We talked to aliens. We stared in each other's eyes. Like we did so many weird things. So like we would always be in lessons, and like they would be telling us something about like Ayurveda or doshas or like reaching enlightenment, and like I would always just look over at Brittini's face, and you would always be like, and you would be looking around, and you'd be like, what the fuck?
Man, it was like, I remember, that's so funny.
I like
I
couldn't
remember
look at
like
you during lessons because I would just start dying.
I just remember like every day being way too intense. Like now that I'm like, you know, out of that, and like I'm able to understand what they said, like now the knowledge I have, like I'd be like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. But it was like everything was so new to me. I was like every day was like a whole like year's lesson of like stuff. So it was like boom, 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 like constant. And then I remember we like try to read our chakras to see if they're open. Yo, all of mine were closed. And my ego was like, what the fuck? Like, why are you so closed? Like, I thought you were open as hell. They were all closed. I was so pissed. I was actually like mad. I was like, how dare they be closed?
I remember that. You were like, I'm open. Why aren't my chakras open?
I'm like the most open person there is. So why are my chakras closed? Like, I was so concerned.
Yeah.
But then I figured out that I was just like putting on a mask the whole time. So it's fine.
Yeah. So did you come out of that? Like, what were your thoughts on training? Like, what were your thoughts on it?
Okay. So yoga training itself was like amazing. But let me tell you, like it was, you know, I was a little disappointed. I thought there'd be more yoga. We only did yoga for 90 minutes a day, which when you're at yoga, I gained weight at yoga school. Let me tell you, with the buffet, that's what I was disappointed in. I thought I was going to be so healthy. Like the 2 months prior to me like traveling, I was eating and drinking so much thinking I was going to lose it all at yoga school, which I didn't. I just gained weight. But
we did, I mean, the yoga, we also did like 90 minutes in the afternoon, it just wasn't a flow. It was like hands-on adjustments and like body
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. It was more like how to teach yoga
Right.
with us as being
But yeah, but
instructors.
actual yoga practice, 90 minutes.
Yeah. So what really like the most shockingly like Washuma was a powerful experience, but we can talk about that. But Ashley, our trainer, did Reiki on me
Reiki.
literally the last day of yoga training.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Honestly, that shit fucked my world up. I literally cried. Like me and Katie, or I didn't cry. I was just like, I was like, I'm a mask. My whole personality is fake. I like, I was like, this is not me. Oh my God. It was the most intense experience. And that was what really catapulted my wanting to understand myself, because I obviously wasn't understanding myself. I was just portraying someone I wanted to portray.
Wow. So what happened in that Reiki session? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really like what the like feeling and the emotions I feel when I think about it was like, and like when I think about who I was in that yoga training, and who I am now is different. Like I was very much more, even though I'm still my person, like your personality doesn't really change. Like my personality is who I am, but like I think I used my personality to get things like I was purposely loud, not because I'm like a secured extrovert, but because I was an insecure extrovert. Like I wanted people's validation. So I try to be like the loud person. And not just in yoga training, I mean like in my whole life, you know. But now like through her showing me and like through my own personal development that started because of what she told me, I now understand that like I am an extrovert. That's my personality. I thrive and I literally get energy from social situations, but I'm now in a secure place. Like I don't need the validation from others to feel like I'm doing okay, you know? I just like, it just like completely changed my perspective of like how I was portraying myself outwardly.
Wow. Your
Yeah.
Reiki session changed your perception of how you're portraying yourself on the outside?
Yeah. Like I literally felt like I was wearing a mask
Wow.
until she like did Reiki on me.
Wow.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah, she did. I had the two, well, she did the group Reiki for us, that one
Oh yeah.
ceremony one night where we each got like a personal
You were like
like prize
shaking, weren't
finish.
you?
I like it was like I was in the Matrix. I've never seen that movie, but like everything like shut down in my mind and it was like I can't explain. It was like a grid or something. Like it was weird. Like it was like my mind like a computer when it's like gonna
Yeah. Like reboot.
yeah, or like crap out or something. It was like "Rah, rah, rah," and then it was just like nothingness.
Wow.
And and then I was exhausted, like I couldn't get up. And
Yeah, I
then
remember you were so tired.
I was exhausted, like I couldn't move. And yeah, it was intense. And then
She has
she
some very powerful hands. Let me
yeah.
tell you.
Yeah, and then she did the one the last day of the training and then she like did all this stuff with my chakras and like removed like a knife from my solar plexus or I was like harming my
Holy.
yeah, she was like, you've been denying your gifts for so long. And I had a knife in my solar plexus and she took it out. And yeah, so.
I had I forgot, I had a thorn or a horn on my third eye. Like a calloused horn. And she like filed it.
That's wild.
Wild. Wild. You had a knife in your solar plexus. That's even more wild. That's like your pleasure chakra.
Yeah, it's like that's your life force.
Yeah, like creativity, all of that.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay, so you had your spiritual awakening and kind of.
I would
That
say
was
like
like your
phase one. I'm in like phase two right now, currently.
that was like your introduction, I feel like, right? To kind of
It was my
your spiritual
introduction to not
journey?
like spirituality, because now I'm like, it was more the introduction to, like, I knew what ego was, but like to really understand ego, and that there's more outside of like the physical dimension. There's an actual like our inner world dimension is actual reality more than like physical. Like just like
Mhm.
the whole, it also helped me expand my mind more than I ever have. So just that itself is a spiritual awakening, you know, widening your mind to different possibilities. Like everything they gave me, I ate that shit up. Like when the alien came to talk to us, I was like, that was real. Where some people were like, that was bullshit. I was like, no, we just talked to the Palladians, man.
That was wild. I love that.
Yeah. So it was a really good experience.
Yeah, it really was. It was great. It was much needed.
Yeah. I mean, after that, like we traveled for a bit, and then I stayed in a town near our yoga training PSAC just to like integrate everything. I didn't feel like traveling again. I like needed to like, I took a month and literally just lived at this house that I literally manifested, and I got it for free because I was house sitting. So I literally just sat at this house and like worked out for 3 hours a day, meditated, did yoga. Like I just like lived what was my best life at that point. All
Yeah.
through manifestation, let me tell you.
Yeah. How did you manifest that?
I manifested so much in my 25th, fourth year of my life. Like 24 was like the most crazy year of manifestation. I manifested the traveling for a year, manifested house sitting, like or like to live in PSAC for a month. I manifested my boyfriend, bless up, and I manifested owning a van and having my boyfriend be in my van with me in New Zealand, like the whole shebang. Oh, I manifested Richard, my boyfriend, in Peru during yoga training. We did so
Yeah.
many manifestation stuff, and it was always, I always wanted like a significant other in the passenger seat of a van with me in the mountains, and literally like 4 months later, bam, we were in New Zealand.
Wow.
I
So how
know.
did you manifest that? Tell us about your manifesting. Because sometimes I feel
um
like what my block around manifesting is like I can manifest, I'm good at it, but sometimes I overthink it and I'm like, well, what if I think I want this now, but what if it's really not what I'm supposed to have? And what if
Ooh, I never thought of that.
I
That's
think about that.
intense.
Yeah, that's what I think
Like
about.
as if you don't deserve it. That's like basically you're
No,
not
not
worthy of
not that I
it.
don't deserve it, but what if I'm like, for example, manifesting like a new car or something that I think, say like a new car, just a run of the mill, like a CRV or something. I'm like, I want a CRV. And then, but really, I could be manifesting like a Mercedes. But
Yeah.
but I just don't, you know what I mean? But I
Oh, like you dumb down your manifestation because like you
Yeah,
can't
or
even
say I'm
imagine it.
manifesting like a career. Say I'm like, okay, I want to be a yoga teacher. But what if I want to be like someone who interviews people? And what if that's what I'm supposed to be, but I get the yoga teacher and I'm said I'm supposed to be doing something else?
Oh, like you don't know if that's what you want really.
Yeah.
Well, then I would first like be like, know what you want. Or like you can do like the yoga instructor, and then if you don't like, you don't like it, you know?
Yeah. Because I
Like
think like with relationships, it's like, yeah, sometimes I want to be in a relationship, but sometimes I don't. So
well then I would have manifested then.
yeah,
Like
I guess
it's
I'm
really
not
weird
coming up
because
with a good example.
no, I know what you mean. Like it's like, oh, like I don't know if that's what I want at the
Or
moment,
like,
because what if the universe wants something else from me?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't think about that?
No, I haven't thought about that, which is really interesting. Because I don't, I'm like in this really, why I say I'm in my second wind of spiritual awakening is because I almost am now gravitating towards like not really looking at the universe as like this third like arm of mine. It's more like all within, like, because I feel like when I'm like, oh, does the universe want this for me? It's like it's not giving myself power. Like, it's like giving something else the power to decide for me. And it's like also not allowing me to be in control of what I want, which I don't mean control, but like,
it's like taking free will away. Like,
yeah.
you still have free will.
And it's also just like, I feel like it gives people like a crutch, like, oh, I got in the car crash because I was supposed to. Like, that was like a big thing we would do at yoga train. Like, oh, like, I stubbed my toe because I was meant to stub my toe. Like, the universe wanted me to, you know? It's just like, no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying not to like use, I'm just like really using a lot more of self now.
Yeah. After our training, we were all so spiritual. Like when you and David and I traveled together, like everything.
We were so serious though. Like we literally were like, this water bottle was meant to be in your lips. Like, and we meant it all full-heartedly.
Yeah. And then like towards the end of us traveling together, like something happened and I was just like, that wasn't like a spiritual thing. Like that was just a coincidence. And like everything.
We were like, wait, maybe it's not all spiritual. Maybe it's just life.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got really trapped into that whole like, oh my God, the universe. It was the universe that chose my lunch today. Thank God my body needed that. You know, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. That was so funny. Oh my God. But it was cool. Like it was awesome just to be around like-minded people. And I think when you're learning about all that stuff that we learned about, like we really went really deep in our yoga teacher training and we learned
shamanism. I didn't know it was going to be shamanic.
I didn't either. I mean, it said that in the title, but I didn't.
But what is that, really? Yeah.
I just wanted it to be like spiritual. Like that was my goal, and it really was.
I liked how we all were like almost the same level of like knowing of like what, like we were all learning. Like even like some of us who knew more didn't know as much as we were being taught. So like we're all on the same page. Some were like, I mean, I was like very like, whoa, brand new. Whereas some like David, he knew what was going on a bit, but like instilled a sense of like still being curious, still didn't know fully, you know.
Yeah. And so everyone, Brittini lived in a teepee.
Oh man, teepee too. Teepee 2 had its own little bonfire in the middle of it.
Yeah, you guys had that good setup.
Yes.
Okay. So you had your spiritual stuff. You stayed in PSAC for a while because you needed to like integrate your spirituality.
Yeah.
And so you stayed in PSAC, you manifested that. So how'd you manifest that also?
That's the thing. Now that I'm 25 has been a rough year, let me tell you. And like, I want to manifest things, but like, I'm like, don't know what I want to manifest. And I'm like, how the heck did I do it so easily? And the thing is that when I look back at it, first of all, I didn't even know I was actually manifesting other than when I was like manifesting, a significant other, because I like deeply like really wanted that, because I've never been in a relationship other than one other before, and that wasn't really like the relationship I was looking for. It was just a friendship. So but like the year travel or the van, they were all just things I was the number one thing is to be detached from it. Like, don't want it, just be like, for me, the most like the year traveling like was just something I always knew was going to happen. So like when people are like, oh, like what made you want to do a year travel, or like how'd you plan it, it was never like something I was like yearning for or planning. I just always had this natural knowing, like, oh, I'm going to travel the world for a year. Didn't know when. It like when I was 19 and discovered I love traveling, I was like, oh, I'm going to backpack for a year. So we can even say I've been manifesting that for like 5 years. I don't know. it's just like being detached from it and like not thinking that like, oh, I want it, because when you think, oh, I want this, it's showing that you're lacking it, and like that's what like law of attract, like your brain's really like
Right.
concentrating on is the lack of it. So yeah, just being detached and kind of just like, oh, and my boyfriend, this sounds weird to people who might not understand, but like I would actually journal to the energy of my future boyfriend. So
Ooh, wait,
that
tell
was
me
how,
about that.
yeah. So I was like already connecting. So my boyfriend now, his name's Richard. So I'm assuming that the energy I was talking to was Richard's energy. So I would like journal, like whenever I felt like it, to this energy of my future boyfriend. And I would just call him you. And I was like, hey, you, like, I really was thinking about you today. I know that we're gonna meet up sometime, just not yet, but I know it's gonna be the perfect time. Like talking to his energy, like, and having his energy, like I could feel like it was like our energies were communicating back and forth.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then 2 months later we met in Colombia. So
Yeah, how did you guys meet? You were not. Yeah, tell that story.
wow, this is a wild story. Okay.
Do you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, the whole like how we became boyfriend girlfriend is really wild. Not necessarily how we met, but like I'm from the States, he's from the UK, from London. I'm in Colombia. I'm like on month 5 of my backpacking trip, and I get into the city, Medellin. I just got off an 8-hour bus ride. It was like an 8-hour day bus, so like all day I'm on the bus, and then we get to Medellin, and by this time I haven't drank in 3 months. I haven't drank like before our yoga training. I didn't feel like drinking. Like it wasn't purposely. I just naturally was like not in that scene anymore through discovering my spirituality and self. But then I got off the bus and I'm in Medellin, which is like, oh, like we're like Al Capone. What's the guy? The Colombian guy.
The
Based
Narcos
all
guy?
based all his stuff in. So it's like a party city. And I got off the 8-hour bus. I was like, oh, I want to drink tonight. Like I'm going out. I'm in Medellin. Let's go. So I go to my hostel, which by the way was like, I just asked people on Instagram, like, what's a good hostel to go to in Medellin? Because there's like 50. So I go to the Black Sheep, which is the hostel most people told me to go to. And I book in and I meet people outside. I become friends with them. I become friends really well with a girl, and we like go out to get like drinks for the night, and I get ready and I come back out outside where everyone is, and then there's like 2 new guys added to the little circle, and one of them is they're both not staying in the hostel, they're both staying at a hotel, but they knew one of the guys from the hostel because they did a trip with them before, so they wanted to like have drinks with him. And it's Richard, my boyfriend, and his roommate, both from London. So they were just over for drinks. And so I walk outside, I walk across, and I just notice this, like, he's like this white, blonde, blue-eyed guy. And he just like stares at me as I walk across, and I sit down. I just see him like do that, like that stare. And like all night I felt it. And he like would make sure, like he would look at me if I laughed when we were talking. Like I just felt his presence. And then they wanted to go eat, and I was like, oh, I don't really want to go. And he was like, you should come. So I'm like, okay. And on the way there, he's like, he's very blunt. He's like, I really like you. And I was like, okay. Like, I was like, oh, that's nice. I didn't know what to say. And then the whole time we're eating, he's like flirting with me, which I'm an idiot and never know when someone's flirting with me. Even when he told me he liked me, I didn't really think much about it. I was like, okay. And then we get up, and he was like, oh, I think I'm going to my hotel. Like, I don't feel like going out. I'll just have a drink there. And I guess that was like, he said it in a different way, but I guess he was trying to invite me to his hotel, which I was like, okay, I'll just go back to the hotel, my hostel, like, bye. And he was like, oh, okay, bye. And like on my way out, he like swooped in and kissed me. And I was like, it was like the most suave kiss I ever had in my life. I remember I was like bending down to tie my shoelaces because I took my shoes off in the restaurant because like I'm ratchet. So I'm putting my shoes back on. And like as I get up, he like takes my waist and like swings me around and just like, man, that was wild. So yeah, we hung out the next day at his rooftop pool, and then he left and flew out to London, and that was it. We had 2 days together. And then, I mean, to make this long story short, I got mugged with machetes like a week later in Colombia. And the first person I called was my mom. But after that, I called Richard, which it was like 2 a.m. his time. He answered because we like were still talking. He like wrote me a letter and I wrote him a letter when he left. So after the mugging, I stayed in Colombia for 3 more weeks, but then decided to go home before I went to New Zealand. And him and I were still talking a little bit. And then when I was home for 3 weeks before I left for New Zealand, I was like, what's the point? I'm going to New Zealand for a year. I have a year visa. What is the point? You're in the UK. So I basically tried to stop it like 3 separate times. And it just like, he never was like, no, don't. He was like, okay. Like, I don't know why we need to stop, but okay. And I was like, oh, okay. Never mind. Let's start again. You know, like so patient. So I go to New Zealand and we just talked back and forth every single day, and it just progressed and progressed and progressed where we finally became boyfriend girlfriend. And he came to visit me in New Zealand for 3 weeks in my van like I manifested, and then he left and I was left alone in my van, and I was like, what am I doing in my life? That's when my whole life flipped upside down because I was like alone in New Zealand in a van. I wasn't happy, like. And then I went to the UK and I've been in the UK ever since.
With
and
Richard.
It's been 4 months. Yeah. So that's like the quickest life story I could give you there.
Wow. Holy shit, Britt.
Holy shit, Britt, let me tell you.
Oh my God. What a crazy like life story that you've had these past few years.
I genuinely like, and I don't take it for granted because when I tell people, like I was in London before COVID even happened, and so well before lockdown, I try to meet people because he would go to work for 9 hours, 8 hours a day. So I would like go on Bumble BFF or like random things and meet up with people, and they'd be like, oh, so like tell me about you. And man, I would have to go through this story all the time, but like it was so exciting for me because it's like, oh, and then I worked in Alaska. Oh, and then I worked on these mega yachts. Oh, and then I got mugged in Colombia with machetes. Like, what? Like, sometimes I don't understand my own life. Like, it's quite insane. It really is. So, I definitely thought about, like, that's why the blogging came about. Because I'm like, there's just, like, so much to be said. But then there's just, like, almost too much. Where I'm like, well, maybe I'll just write, like, a self-memoir one day for me to read and my friends that care enough, you know.
I would read it. I think a lot of people would read it. Like, even if you just each week wrote a story from the past like 5 years, like that's a book.
I know. Well, I was thinking of doing it that way. So I have a blog coming out that's going to be called Holy Shit Brit, about the I and the shit. But I'm still trying to figure out how I want to go about it because it's like I don't really know if I want to talk about stories from my past because like to me it's just like whatever. Or if I want to talk about now or both, I'll probably just do both somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like with that type of thing, you just have to start doing it and then just do it. And then maybe you'll see like what you get more comfortable writing about,
That's
and then
true.
maybe it will take like a natural flow. Like maybe you'll realize, oh, okay, I'm writing a lot about what I'm doing now, or maybe you're writing a lot about your past. Like maybe it will just take like a natural course.
That's true. I mean, this is what's crazy is like I'm telling people to like just do traveling, and like for me like that's so easy. Like that's not really a fear or discomfort for me, but what's a discomfort for me is like settling and like becoming an entrepreneur, which is like what I'm trying to like get to, or like understand what I want, and like do a blog or something. And that's what's scary to me. Like that's where I would want to see like someone like an inspiration, like what you're doing. Like that's why I love talking to you, because you're on that path that I'm like wanting to lead.
Yeah.
So we all inspire each other. We all have different medicine for sure.
We do. We really do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
Man, yeah. I mean, it's just like the tip of the iceberg, but I hope I inspired someone just to like go, like take a flight for 2 weeks and just discover a new place and see what it's like to just do it once we can, you know what I'm saying? But
you know, you can do weekend trips right now. I feel like go camping somewhere, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That like to ground yourself in nature is like the most, because I lived in London for a month and it was really hard. I couldn't do it. I can't do cities. And so we came to a town near the ocean, and it just completely changed my like mindset. So definitely do something outside your comfort zone. Like I just did a fasting because it was outside my comfort zone, and it was tough, but I felt really accomplished after.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing when you do something that you're uncomfortable with, but you do it and you complete it. It's a really great sense of like confidence, number one, and accomplishment. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, I did that really scary thing, or I did that thing I couldn't do. And it's really makes you feel a little bit like more proud of yourself.
Yeah. So yeah, just do it, y'all.
Just do it. Everyone go follow Brittini on Instagram at Holy Shit Brit.
Thank you.
And she tells really good stories, and she's really real, honest, authentic, funny. And I love how honest you are just about your like spiritual process of going through this, because some spiritual people are really like,
Oh, everything's great.
yeah, but you're like, what the fuck is this? You're like, I'm having a rough
I'm like,
time.
I'm going through a quarter life crisis, y'all. Like, bear with me.
Yeah, yeah. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna stop recording.
Okay.